What's up guys, welcome to Talking Poodoo, a Star Wars show where today I am reviewing Star Wars Visions Season 1, a 9-episode anthology series from a bunch of different Japanese anime creators. Each episode is a different story with somewhat different styles of animation and anime. These stories are in the Star Wars universe, although none of them are canonical. They are not officially part of the Star Wars story, so to say. So, what did I think of this show? Season 1 I think is okay. Anthology series are nearly always a mixed bag. There are some that I think were pretty good, there were some which I think were pretty bad, and there was a lot that was like just meandering in the middle somewhere. I do think that this is a really fun, interesting, entertaining idea to get different cultures and viewpoints into Star Wars. Was really cool to really expand on the Star Wars franchise. While none of this is canonical, the fact that we've now got different elements you can pull from to make these canonical, to make certain characters or locations or items and technology or whatever, you can pull from them and say, right, we'll make that canonical, we'll bring that in and make that canonical. I think that's ripe with possibilities, so to say, and that's the coolest thing about this. It's worth saying that because this is looking at Star Wars from a completely different lens, from an Eastern audience rather than a Western audience, the takes on Star Wars are pretty different. There's very clearly some of them are picking out what they like more than others, so there's a lot of focus on Jedi and lightsaber battles and what it means to be a Jedi, and there's less of the more like child elements in there. There's less, it's not much of a Star Wars for kids. That's kind of the thing that they're avoiding here. It's very much adult drama in anime form. Now, what I will say is what I thought is the weakness of some of the worst stories in this anthology is that some of them don't always feel like they're Star Wars. They don't always feel like they belong in Star Wars, and that's a big weakness. Because while it is interesting to get new perspectives on Star Wars, to get new views on Star Wars, at the same time it still has to be Star Wars. And I think some of them just fall a little short of that. And it's also worth saying that these are short anime episodes. They're not very long. Some of them are about 10 minutes, some of them are about 20 minutes, but most of them are about 15 minutes roughly. So that's shorter than I expected. It's shorter than an average episode of an animated TV show. So these are really short, brief stories with a beginning, middle and end. There's a couple that leave things a little open, as if there's going to be potential for more in the future, and maybe there will be, I don't know. But a lot of these did leave me wanting more. A lot of these did leave me... I was in two situations with some of these. I was like, right, that story's done, great, I'm satisfied, but it just didn't really feel like I needed that because it is so short, it is so minor. So there was that situation. Then there was some where it ended and I was like, right, I kind of want more. The story isn't over here. The story felt a little bit rushed. Why not flesh it out a bit more? And there's a lot of that, which is a little disappointing. But which were my favourite? Well, I like the Duel, the Elder, the Village Bride, and what was the other one? The Ninth Jedi. So those were my favourite of the stories in there. The Duel is the title pretty much sums it up. It's a duel. It's a very classic like samurai Ronin character goes to this village where bandits are taking the siege. He then takes them on, and that's basically all it is. The thing that stands out about that episode is the use of force powers, the cool main character, and of course the animation style. The animation style in that episode is very unique and very different to anything else in this series, and I'd love to see more in that style. It was really cool. The way in which they implemented Japanese architecture and clothing and items into the Star Wars universe also worked really well, and I thought, right, this is a really cool way to start the season. Some of the others are a bit more traditional anime with like over-the-top exaggerated action scenes and very classic anime style of art and so on and so forth. My least favourite of the stories were Akakiri and TOB1. Akakiri because honestly I just found that a little boring, if I'm honest. TOB1 though was one where I really struggled in that it's fine to not be canonical, but again, you've still got to be Star Wars, and I think TOB1 broke the rules of Star Wars. It broke the rules of what a droid can be, it broke the rules of what a Jedi can be, and it tried to mess with them a bit too much for my liking. But I totally understand why some people would like that. I can totally see why some people would find the main character endearing and charming and so on, but it just didn't feel like Star Wars to me. It felt like they were trying to bend it a little too much. But there's another story I want to talk about, Lopinocchio. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but Lopinocchio is interesting because it's 20 minutes long, it's one of the longer episodes. It's also got some of the more interesting themes and storylines running through that, some of the more interesting, well-developed, fleshed out characters of the whole series. It's not in my favourite episodes for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not huge on anime, so I should have said that right at the go. But yeah, Japanese anime, not my cup of tea at all, so I'm very picky with anime and animation. Lopinocchio is very classic Japanese anime in terms of the way it looks, the way it feels, the way it presents its characters and stories. But I feel like Lopinocchio was a 2-hour movie condensed down into 20 minutes. I really think that, and of all of the Star Wars stories being told here, should have been stretched out a bit more, should have been fleshed out a bit more, and that's why it's not in my favourites. But I did enjoy it, and I do think it's got the most potential to be something bigger and grander in the future. But because some of the episodes are only like 10-15 minutes long, it does mean that there's a sense of being rushed almost. That, sorry, here's a character, here's a story, it's a small story, here we go, it's finished. You don't really get a lot of time to dive into them a lot. There's not a lot of character development in some of them, which means that with a couple of exceptions, a lot of the characters are fairly straightforward, fairly basic. There's not a lot of depth to them, there's not a lot of interest into them. Beyond like Lopinocchio and maybe the Ronin in Reverse episode, I couldn't tell you much about any of the characters in this, which makes me think that, right, I don't really want to see many of these characters again, which is a problem, because Star Wars is all about characters and story. So it's disappointing in that a lot of the characters in this series are just kind of figureheads. It's like, right, you got this Jedi who follows the code very strictly, you've got this Jedi in learn, and you've got this Jedi on the run. Lots of Jedi. But yeah, I just wanted a bit more from the characters, and because of the short form, that prevented that from being possible. In terms of the production, I've talked about the anime. A lot of this is very classic Japanese anime. There are a few here that mesh with the style. The Duel, for example, I think is the most distinct one, visually speaking. Then there's TOB1 has a very different look to some of the others. There's one, I think it was Akakiri, where there's like a very clear like frame rate difference compared to some of the other episodes. But a lot of this is very classic Japanese anime. If you've ever seen Japanese anime before, you kind of know the thing to expect, which is a little disappointing in that there isn't a huge amount of variety. But it is also worth saying that some of these studios they brought in, not every episode is done by a different studio. There's a couple of studios that done multiple episodes, for example, so that does again limit the variety and possibilities there. But what I will say is that some of the animation is clearly big budget, high quality, which is great. But also some of it looks like it's quite the opposite. It looks like it's very basic, very straightforward, very low budget, which is interesting. Why does it seem like one studio got a hell of a lot of money to do the animation style and another didn't? Or maybe they just used the funds differently. Maybe they spent more money on the voice acting or the sound design or something. I don't know. But I will say, speaking of sound design, it's brilliant. The sound design is really, really good. It's very Star Wars. They've got some adherence to the John Williams themes, but they're also doing their own thing on it. They're introducing some Japanese elements to the sound and the score and the music, and it's really cool. It fits in very well, and I'd like to hear some of this music be expanded upon in the future or be utilised in new canonical Star Wars content. But just a few miscellaneous points before I end this. While a lot of the stories here are non-canonical, it is worth saying that some of the better ones, I think, can actually be canonical. A lot of them do actually fit into the Star Wars timeline that we have right now, and it's interesting that they're considered non-canonical, because they very easily could fit in. There's one that's very clearly set pre-Phantom Menace, there's one that's very clearly Order 66, and yeah, there's a bunch of things here where they're slotting in these stories in the Star Wars timeline even though they're not canonical, they're not official. And another story I just want to talk about before I finish now is called The Twins. A bit like TOB1, This one I thought was very entertaining, very fun, very enjoyable. It had probably one of the more detailed stories, but it's also a case of it had a very detailed story that's trying to really rush through and cram into this 20-minute episode. It very clearly tries to give you all this information very fast. The characters talk very quick, the action's very quick, it's very action heavy. The problem I had with the twins is that this is an example of Star Wars story not really fitting into the canon very well, in that it breaks the rules of Star Wars. You've got characters who are fighting out in space without helmets on. No explanation. Fine, you want to have this cool action sequence, you want to have the cool visuals, I get that. But when you're breaking the rules of Star Wars, when I'm thinking of like, how is this possible, more than, wow, this is fun, that's a problem. I shouldn't be thinking about how this is possible, I shouldn't be thinking about the problems of the scene, instead I should just be enjoying it for what it is. But the way in which this breaks the rules of Star Wars took me out of the episode, and that was disappointing. The fact that you've then also got like the lightsaber becoming super huge, and it's like, right, I don't quite get that. It looks cool, it sounds cool, on a visual level it's really cool action scene, but it doesn't fit in with Star Wars. And I thought that was a bit of an issue with this episode, the twins. Again, enjoyable episode, just not Star Wars. So at the end of the day, Star Wars Visions, a mixed bag. The ones that I feel worked really well, the ones that I really liked, are the ones that felt like they could be Star Wars, they felt like they could be canonical, and that they actually done something cool with the Star Wars galaxy. The ones that I didn't like quite so much were the ones that broke the rules of Star Wars, the ones that clearly could not fit into the canon whatsoever. The ones where maybe the creators were having a bit more fun than they probably should have in certain regards. But anyway, that's my thoughts of Star Wars Visions Season 1. I do hope we get more in the future. I think it's a really cool idea to have anthology stories in the Star Wars galaxy by different cultures, different backgrounds. Japanese anime in this season. It'd be cool if maybe next season we go away from Japanese anime and maybe, I don't know, maybe do Russian anime or whatever, I don't know. But just different cultures, different opinions, different views on Star Wars. It would be really interesting if they could branch out a bit more and not just get American and English or Japanese. Get a lot of different elements in there. But that's my review. Let me know what you thought in the comments and feedback down below. As you can see by the way I look and the camera setup and all that, this has been a rushed video. I haven't been able to record it in my usual schedule because, well, for various reasons, I'm not going to get into it. So hopefully you like that. Hopefully it's not a problem, I don't know. But anyway, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @the_Grant_Burton, but most importantly, subscribe to my channel. If you're watching on Talking Poodoo, a Star Wars show, or Talking Poodoo, a Star Wars channel, you're in the right place. You get this content very first thing as soon as it's available. If you're watching on my film and TV channel, which is my name, Grant Burton, on YouTube, well, guess what? It's a great way to watch this content. It's perfectly fine to do that. But you are watching it a few days later, if not a week later, than what you could be watching it. So maybe go over to Talking Poodoo, a Star Wars channel to check that out earlier if you want. Until next time though, thanks for watching.